Hello, everyone, and welcome to my as yet unnamed YouTube channel. I'm Eric, and thank you so very much for joining me. First of all, let me apologize for the look of everything. I know it doesn't look very professional, it doesn't feel very professional, and I'm not yet technologically up to snuff, but I promise you, as time goes by, it will improve greatly. And I have to apologize for being a little nervous. Uh, I was going to originally do this video outside, but being that it's only 9 degrees at the moment, obviously I decided not to do that. Uh, I'll tell you a little bit about myself here. I was born and raised in South Louisiana in a town called Denham Springs. For those of you who don't know where that is, if you're in Baton Rouge and you head east, the very first town you'll run across will be Denham Springs. I was raised there from the time I was 8 years old by my grandparents, Robert and Dolores Sibley. I'm not interested in airing any of my family's dirty laundry here today, so I'm not going to get into why that was exactly. But I will tell you a little bit about probably the greatest influence on my life, my grandfather. Uh, uh, I will never in my life have the privilege of knowing a more decent and honorable man ever. Uh, he was a World War II veteran. He did not enlist, he was drafted. He was sent to Europe. And in France, he was wounded, received the Purple Heart. Somewhere along the way, he became engaged to a girl in England who ended up getting killed in an air raid. I remember my father telling me about times where my grandfather would wake up screaming. And for a long time, he was haunted by the memories of things that he had to do and things that he witnessed and friends that he lost. Very rough time for him. And he didn't really talk a whole lot about it. Some he did. He told us a few stories. My grandmother passed away in 1994, and in 2000, he got remarried to a very fine woman. Her name was Ruby, and it was her son-in-law, I believe, talked my grandfather into watching the movie Saving Private Ryan, which oddly enough was very therapeutic for him. And after watching it, he started to open up a great deal more about some of his experiences there. He was a good, true Christian man. He literally had a hand in building the church that he attended and we attended faithfully while I was growing up. Livingston United Methodist Church. Obviously, he wasn't the only one involved in that, but he was part of the group who physically built that church. He wasn't the type who was interested in sitting on a pew and hearing some preacher point fingers out at the world and talk about how wicked and evil everyone is. He was more interested in hearing something much more substantial. If you want to know about what kind of a Christian my grandfather was, I would advise you to go and look at the book of Matthew and look up the Sermon on the Mount and the things people were instructed to do and the ways they were instructed to live their lives. And that sums him up very, very well. He was a kind man, a gentle man, a union man. And I think about him every day. And I can't think of one single person who ever was or ever will be a greater influence on my life. As far as other influences I had, my mother taught me how to read before I ever entered kindergarten. And she had a lot of different tools, a lot of different things that she would do in order to do that. And one of those things, it's going to sound kind of funny, but were comic books. And from a young age, I really got into those stories about heroes and villains and good and bad, and knowing the difference between good and bad and what it is to be honorable and noble and to fight for what it is you believe in. As I got older, I started getting into more mature content, especially books such as Watchmen. And if you haven't read it, I strongly recommend you do. A story that, even though it was first published in 1986, becomes more and more relevant with each passing year. I was also heavily influenced by science fiction and horror. And if you want to know my view on the world, you don't have to look much for that. It's kind of funny, but if you just watch a little bit of Star Trek or The Twilight Zone, you'll get a good idea of where I stand on most issues. What drove me to do this was we're facing very perilous times. We're facing, I'll just go ahead and say, fascism. One of my most poignant memories of my grandfather was back in 1991 when David Duke first ran for governor of Louisiana. And I remember the emotional toll that took on my grandfather. He had a difficult time processing it. Uh, Something that he fought against, rearing its ugly head in this day and age. It made him feel like it was all for nothing. I remember one of the strongest memories I have as a child was one day my grandmother taking out some of his memorabilia from the time that he served. And among those things was a letter that he wrote to his mother. And I don't remember really anything that I read in there except for uh, where he mentions Hitler and the Third Reich and how important he felt it was to fight against something that he saw as, quote, evil. Uh, what drove me to do this was mainstream media has let us down. I see them often excusing and sane washing some things that take place. Uh, I I walked away from mainstream media a good while back and decided to dabble in the world of independent media. And there are a lot of great independent media voices out there, and I strongly recommend anyone watching this start to look into that. Uh, I was going to wait and do this because, well, one, I'm nervous about being on camera. I was worried about not being technologically up to snuff, but recent events just seem to make it more imperative, especially after last night having a conversation uh, via social media with someone I'm not going to name, but it was someone that I've known uh, the entire time that I've lived here in Missouri. I've been here in Missouri, except for a couple of years there in the middle. I've been in Missouri since 2002, over 20 years now. And this person, I can never say that we were great friends, but or best friends or anything like that. But we were friendly and somewhat friends. But he basically made it known to me last night that he felt essentially that I shouldn't be allowed to hold a job since people I encounter at that job may have voted differently from me. And that's when and he told me I needed to get mental help. I guess that if you don't agree with him and the other red hats, then you are mentally unfit to function. And he ended that by telling me that basically that the conversation had not been worth his time. And I can't tell you that that really meant a lot to me, coming from someone who feels like I shouldn't be allowed to hold a job because I voted differently from him. What I hope to accomplish with this channel is to get people in on the conversation, start conversations, and maybe educate some people, maybe educate myself. I want to encourage anyone watching, feel free to comment, feel free to disagree. I welcome discourse. One thing I won't tolerate in my comment section is anyone being disrespectful to anyone else. If I see any blatant disrespect, you will be blocked. But I I just thought this would be a great forum to get my voice out there and add it to the voice because our voices are badly needed right now. Very, very badly needed. I really hope to do a lot of things. Uh, I might be doing some live streams. I've already contacted a local former congressional nominee from this area who has agreed at a later date to be interviewed. I hope to be doing interviews. Uh, I'm married to a very wonderful woman. Her name is Michelle. She's also been a bit of an inspiration to me and an interest I've taken in women's issues. My wife Michelle is a former Air Force veteran. She's worked at the same job for 30 years and raised three daughters on her own. A very strong woman, very intelligent woman, uh, who I married on many reasons. I became interested in her and immediately knew I needed to get to know her better after I met her because just things I learned about her, just I had such an immense respect for her. And she doesn't know it yet, but eventually I'm going to talk her into joining me on this channel. So I'm very interested in the issue of equality. I feel that we all need to be equals. We have a constitution in the United States that says all men, should be revised to all people are created equal. I feel that the United States Constitution and its Bill of Rights needs to apply to everyone or else it doesn't mean anything at all. So thank you for listening. Hope it wasn't too unbearable. And please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, share the video. And tomorrow we're going to start getting into some things of real substance. Hope to see you there. I'm just saying.